A woman is murdered inside her Florida home. Another vanishes, and her body is found in a field days after her disappearance. Prosecutors say the man responsible for both murders is a Fort Myers man named Wade Steve Wilson. The 30-year-old faces charges including 2 counts of first-degree murder for the brutal deaths of Kristine Melton and Diane Ruiz. Melton and Ruiz were killed within 4 days of each other in October of 2019. Melton was found dead inside her home, and Ruiz's body was discovered in a field days after she disappeared. Investigators believe Melton was choked to death by Wilson after they met at a bar in Fort Myers, Florida. Prosecutors say on October 7th of 2019, Wilson stole Melton's car after killing her. But Wilson's alleged crime spree would continue. In addition to the 2 first-degree murder charges of Melton and Ruiz, Wilson also faces a charge of grand theft for allegedly stealing Melton's car, battery charge for allegedly attacking another woman, and a count of burglary of a dwelling plus 1 count of first-degree petty theft. Prosecutors claim after killing Melton and stealing her car, he went to visit Melissa Montanez and allegedly used Melton's phone to contact her. After Montanez and Wilson met up, he allegedly attacked her, then fled again in Melton's car, and that's when he encountered Diane Ruiz. And what would come next would forever change the lives for the mother of 2's family. The state says Wilson encountered Ruiz in Cape Coral, where police say he killed her. And as if that wasn't devastating enough, he allegedly repeatedly ran over her body using Melton's car. Authorities later found Ruiz's body in Melton's car along with both women's cell phones. Wilson then reportedly entered a nearby business where he allegedly confessed to the homicides to an acquaintance. The acquaintance called 911, prompting Wilson to flee on foot and would later break into a nearby home.
For whatever reason, Florida's a hotbed of stuff like this, and this is just, even by our standards, this is particularly egregious. At least the allegations are.
I spoke with Dave Ehrenberg, the state attorney for Palm Beach County. While his office isn't affiliated with the case, he explains there is a mystery lingering in the case. Particularly, why did Wilson allegedly brutally murder Melton and Ruiz?
Well, that's what it seems like for Miss Melton, where he met her at a bar and murdered her, strangled her at her own home. And then within just a short amount of time, he then killed Miss Ruiz. Not sure the connection between this defendant and Miss Ruiz, other than she was walking to work at the Moose Lodge and he confronted her. And I don't know if they knew each other, if there was a conversation, or did he just attack her because he's an apparent sociopath. It's hard to say, but her body was found in the car that was owned by Miss Melton. And in between, he managed to allegedly commit a battery against another woman, and he's going to face trial for that at this trial. So he's got a host of charges from this crime spree.
Wilson was indicted by a Lee County grand jury in November of 2019. By that time, he was already in custody on unrelated battery charges and hit with additional charges in October of 2020 after he and another inmate tried to escape jail. According to the sheriff's office report, Wilson was the primary planner and instigator of the attempt. Since his incarceration, he's professed his innocence for the murders to a local reporter.
Are you guilty of those murders? Did you commit those murders concerning Kristine Melton and Diane Ruiz?
No, ma'am, I did not commit these murders, and I'm innocent. I did not, no, ma'am.
Nearly 5 years after the horrific murders, Wilson's trial nears, and if convicted, he's not just facing the rest of his life in prison. He's also facing the death penalty. Lee Circuit Court Judge Nicholas Thompson has reportedly denied the defense's motion to challenge the execution by lethal injection and aggravating factors in Wilson's case. And if convicted, the soon-to-be jurors don't have to unanimously agree to death. While that was the case at the time of his arrest, the law changed in 2023, reducing the number to 8 out of 12. So only 8 have to agree for death. Ehrenberg says he believes the case is strong enough for Wilson to potentially get the death penalty if convicted.
Yeah, this is a horrific case, and he's facing the ultimate penalty here in Florida, which was made a lot easier for prosecutors recently after the Nicholas Cruz case, where that's the Parkland, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas mass murder. He was able to avoid the death penalty by a 9-3 vote. Florida used to have a unanimous requirement for the death penalty. Now it's only 8-4. It's the lowest in the country. Not sure if it's going to be held constitutional if it gets challenged to the U.S. Supreme Court. But for now, this defendant is in a whole lot of trouble, and I'd be surprised if he doesn't get the ultimate penalty. Under Florida law, you need aggravators, and the jury must decide that at least one aggravator exists unanimously. So, for example, was the killing cold, calculated, and premeditated? That's an aggravated. Aggravator. Was it done for pecuniary gain? That's an aggravator. Was it heinous, atrocious, and cruel? I would say when you allegedly run someone over multiple times, make sure the person's dead, and you throw the body in the car and drive around with it, yeah, seems pretty heinous, atrocious, and cruel. There are other potential aggravators. And all you need is one that the jury finds exists unanimously, and then the person is eligible for the death penalty. But the defendant can try to rebut it by showing mitigators. And unlike the prosecution, the defense gets to try to show any potential mitigator. See, for the prosecutors, you have a list of potential aggravators. You've got to find at least one from this list. For the defense, it could be anything. It could be that his mother didn't love him enough, or that she smoked in the womb while he was being born. You know, it could be anything. And then it's up to the jury to decide whether the aggravators exceed the mitigators. And by a vote of 8-4, it's all you need to get the death penalty.
The death penalty law in Florida isn't the only thing that has changed since Wilson's arrest. I just want to take a brief pause from this really gruesome story. I don't know about you, but I'm always curious about who I'm surrounding myself with. But that's where our sponsor of this story, truthfinder.com, comes in with a solution. Truthfinder is one of the largest public record search services, not just across the nation, but the world. And their goal is super simple: to help people like you and me learn the truth about the people in our very lives. So here's how it works. You go on their website, truthfinder.com. Say, for instance, you have a new friend or a new date and you want to know a little bit more. You can type in their name, and within minutes, you get access to reports that includes info like numbers, addresses, associates, but also any previous arrests and criminal convictions. If you think about typing my name in that search, goes without saying, my Truthfinder record is sparkling clean. I mean, imagine not having this information at your fingertips. You meet someone in real life, not realizing all the skeletons they have in their closet. Also, if you type in an address, it tells you if there are any registered sex offenders that may live in the area. So right now, Law&Crime viewers can get 50% off confidential background reports at truthfinder.com/LCnews and access information about almost anyone. Again, that's truthfinder.com/LCnews for 50% off your first month. Now back to the story. Since his 2019 arrest, Wilson is now sporting a heavier and even more menacing tattooed look. In his first mugshot, Wilson donned various neck tattoos, as well as a tattoo under his chin in bold capital letters as it reads, "Bred for War." Then, during a court appearance in 2019, Wilson appeared with a shaved head and a large swastika tattoo on the right side of his head. In a 2023 mugshot, Wilson appeared with his hair grown out, covering the swastika tattooed on his head. But this year, in an earlier 2024 court appearance, Wilson appeared in court with a new set of face tattoos. While his hair now covers the swastika on his face, he's since emerged with a smaller swastika under his right eye, as well as a Joker-like smile with the tattooed stitches extending past his mouth and the word glory tatted on his temple. According to two motions filed in early May, Wilson reportedly hoped to obtain a haircut and apply facial makeup to cover several tattoos in hopes they improve his image before the jury.
Appearance matters. Jurors are always paying attention to the defendant, whether they're reacting to things, whether they're talking, whether they're fidgeting, whether they're scowling, and what they look like and what they wear. So the defendant was able to change out of the yellow jumpsuit or orange jumpsuit into some decent looking threads and get a haircut in the prison. And you have Sixth Amendment rights to a fair trial. So I have no issue with that. Now, the bigger issue is his face tattoos. He went through all the trouble to get these disgusting tattoos like swastikas on his face, and he got permission from the court to hide them, but he's not doing a good job of hiding it, because although he's allowed to use pancake makeup, he hasn't done it, at least not all the time. And it does you no good to just conceal your horrific tattoos only part of the time. It makes you look worse, in fact. Then it makes you look like you're hiding things, and then the jury sees you one day with a swastika on your head, and they're not going to like that.
As Wilson's trial looms right around the corner and seemingly a stack of evidence is mounted against Wilson, including a potential confession, Aaron Berg explains if he was Wilson's defense attorney, he has some advice for the double murder defendant.
Number one, stay quiet. Shut your mouth. He's been out there talking to the media. It's only helping the prosecution, which is great. I encourage that. But the defense lawyer needs to tell him to stay quiet. And also that applies to jail calls, because jail calls are all recorded. And it's a treasure trove of valuable evidence for prosecutors when these loose-lipped defendants who think they know everything, who think they're smarter than everyone else, start talking. I don't expect them to take the stand in this case. I think it's a very, very, very small chance. But the best thing he can do for himself is to stay quiet, listen to his lawyer, and let the lawyer try to poke holes in the prosecution's case. But there's a lot of evidence here. It's not just circumstantial evidence. There's direct evidence, like his alleged confession to his ex-girlfriend. And so I think this is a very strong case for prosecutors, not only to get a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt unanimously, but to get the death penalty, which you only need 8-4, not a unanimous vote.
Wilson has cycled through a number of defense attorneys who have been tasked with defending him as a client, signaling it could be a tough assignment for Wilson's attorneys.
Yeah, he had an ex-girlfriend say that he confessed, and so that's going to be powerful evidence. And kudos to her for coming forward and not being too afraid to testify, because that's very important, direct evidence. But he then tried to change the story, apparently, by telling local reporters that he was the victim of some human trafficking ring where he was participating in grooming women, and then he turned on them, and now they're trying to set him up for these murders. It makes no sense, of course, and his lawyer must be upset that he would voluntarily talk to the media. Maybe that's why he's gone through a few lawyers already, and that's one of the reasons for the delay. This case should have been tried a while ago, but because of attorneys withdrawing and because of COVID, it's now been about 5 years since the murders. It is an uphill battle for defense lawyers when you have a client like this. And as a prosecutor, I have respect for the defense bar. These are not easy cases for them, but that's the system we have. We have an adversarial system where to get to the truth, you have both sides, putting on evidence or at least trying to poke holes in the prosecution's case if you're the defense lawyer. And that puts the prosecution to the test. And that's the system we have. You can have another system where both sides are trying to provide evidence and both are trying to get to the truth. But in our system, it's adversarial. And even if you believe your client is guilty, which he really looks like he is, you do have a responsibility to give him the best defense possible. And that means to question witnesses, to cross-examine them, and to make sure the burden of proof has been reached and that police don't violate any constitutional rights when doing their job.
While no case is an assured win for any side, Ehrenberg explains the deck could potentially be more stacked in favor of the prosecution.
There's no one else here who had the means, motive, and opportunity. And although the motive is probably the weakest part about it, he's a guy who has a short fuse, allegedly, and met a girl at a bar and then took her home and strangled her to death. The bigger question to me is, why did he kill Miss Ruiz? Now, he stole Miss Melton's car, so that provides some bit of motive, which is pecuniary. And then he used it to go and see another girlfriend and then attack her. So you have to frame it, I think, as far as this situation as like a crime spree, a series of events that are related to each other. And the evidence is pretty clear as a prosecutor that not only is there a confession, but the cell phone for both of the victims, Miss Melton and Miss Ruiz, were found in the car that this defendant stole. And not only that, but Miss Ruiz's body was found in Miss Melton's car that he stole. How else would Miss Ruiz's body get in the car unless the defendant is the one who did it? So it's a pretty strong case. And also, even if he's not found guilty here, but I expect him to be found guilty, he's also facing other charges like trying to escape from prison. So he's not getting out of prison anytime soon.
And as the stakes couldn't be higher, very soon Wilson's life could hang in the balance of a dozen jurors as they have to weigh later on between life and death if he's convicted. Wade Wilson's trial is slated to last a month. Both sides still have to select a jury of 12 plus 4 alternates. And remember, only 8 of those jurors have to agree to sentence Wilson to death if he's convicted. Reporting for Law&Crime, I'm Elizabeth Millner.